In this episode, I will showcase a YouTuber that has been pointing out and presenting nothing but fact-based intel about a political party he actually used to be a part of. That's right, folks. The liberal Hivemind used to be a liberal, but over the years of his being a member of said political party, he started seeing example after example of stupid and even more ridiculous rhetoric spewing from the mouths and actions of the so-called party that's for the common man. Yeah, I'm sure that's what they want you to believe. So it's only rational and wise for someone like Liberal High Mind to decide at some point to leave those dregs of the political spectrum, seeing more and more of the sad yet meaningless neo-Marxist buffoons only wanting to capture votes, endlessly promote useless DEI and other worthless measures that would seek to control and clutter up society with concepts or ideas that are not even compatible with rational politics as a whole. Liberal Hive Mind has demonstrated over the last 10 years he's been a YouTuber showing examples of the left how they are nothing but ignorant bullshitters that want nothing short of total domination of Western politics and will stop at nothing to get there. As we move on, I'll be spotlighting a few clips of his more recent video and other related material. In this specific video, Liberal Hive Mind points out, or is about to point out, Javier Milei's take on communism, and let's begin.
Javier Milei does it again. This guy is the gift that keeps on giving. Every time you think he can't possibly one-up himself with another nuclear-based take, well, he instantly proves you wrong and ups the ante, taking it to the next frickin' level. And this particular Javier Milei rant, I think, is quite perfectly timed considering what we're going through right now. You know, South America and Central, or I guess the southern part of North America, well, they're currently moving away from communism into an era of free market capitalism. Of course, I think Javier Milei is the face of that movement. But we, however, are kind of moving in the exact opposite direction, a slow march towards communism. I'd argue a very fast march towards communism north of the border in Canada, and then, you know, the Democrat Socialist of America movement taking over the Democrat Party. And so as we're experiencing this rise of radical leftism, the rise of socialism, well, it's probably the perfect time to be posting videos like these, to be signal boosting the most based nuclear takes imaginable, and that's exactly what Javier Milei just cooked up in his latest little podcast moment. Let's go ahead and take a look at what he had to say.
What is communism?
It's the ultimate expression of human arrogance. It's a laboratory experiment that can only be sustained and survive in that laboratory. Because in fact, when it was taken to the extreme, it was a failure economically, socially, culturally, and besides, they murdered 150 million human beings.
One could say that Javier Milei may end up being like the Donald Trump of Argentina. And that could only be a very good thing, because Javier Milei has already started making transformations in that country that will set the record straight as to how Argentina should be, not how it has been. And so we continue with Javier Milei's interview right there.
I have nothing to discuss about that. They already lost. But also the slogans are against Judeo-Christian values. It's built on envy, hatred, and resentment. There's a beautiful quote by Thomas Sowell. He asks, since when did envy, which was once considered a deadly sin, stop being a sin and instead become seen as a virtue? Because he's referring to social justice. And what is social justice? It's envy plus rhetoric.
He is absolutely right. No, there is nothing respectable about far leftism. Communism is the ultimate display of human arrogance. It's simply unfettered, unimaginable narcissism and arrogance. And you see it time and time again, one of the telltale signs of arrogance, not being able to accept that you are wrong, but especially on the issue of communism.
As with Liberal Hive Mind's follow-up video, he reveals that the DSA is indeed a fraud, and they are. They're nothing but an empty movement of nonsense that should never have been started. Let's listen.
Folks, the entire movement is fraudulent. The DSA, the Democrat Socialists of America, or I guess as you could say, the new Democrat Party, the future of the Democrat Party. It's a party of complete frauds, my friends. You know, these people, they love to pretend as if there's some working class, diverse movement fighting upward, fighting the billionaire, the 1%, the top 10%, the millionaires, the billionaires, the trillionaires. And they're fighting on behalf of the working class, the plebeian class. They're taking on the bourgeoisie, otherwise the class that owns the means of production.
In other words, they'd like people to know that they're a self-defined socialist slowly going to filter into a communist. How nice.
But my friends, that couldn't be further from the truth. The truth is, they are the bourgeoisie. Certainly no ideological diversity. No, it's think like us or we will literally kill you. No, this group is mostly comprised of overly privileged, overly educated, white spoiled brats. A bunch of self-hating, overeducated college elites who are clearly suffering incredible cases of white savior syndrome, cosplaying as working class underdogs. The whole thing's a complete scam, a complete fraud. And we've got some interesting reporting to put it all into clear perspective.
The socialists want you to believe that these victories are the result of working class people flocking to their candidates. They want you to believe that they are fighting the oligarchy and taking on the billionaires and special interests and bringing back an agenda focused on the multiracial working class. Alas, this is a load of malarkey. A 2021 survey of DSA members found that 85% were white, just 9% were Hispanic, and just 4% black. Even Trump got 24% of black men to vote for him, and he won Hispanic men outright. As for a working class organization, just 4% of DSA members had blue-collar jobs, while 6 in 10 had professional jobs, and the remainder were unemployed or students. Over 80% had a college degree. The DSA is winning with over-credentialed, mostly white college elites over the candidates chosen by the working class that they pretend to represent, whose views are often diametrically opposed to those of the DSA. The socialists support abolishing ICE, while 60% of working class Americans support building a wall. The socialists support allowing trans athletes to compete against women, while 72% of working class Americans oppose it. The socialists routinely smear America, while working class Americans are deeply patriotic.
It's a complete freaking joke. These DSA people are not workers. They're not the downtrodden who understand the issues of working class people. No, frankly, if they did, they'd probably understand grit, individualism, hard work, productivity, doing for oneself. You know, I think there's a reason why there's such a disconnect between overly educated, pompous losers and actual working class people in the political realm. Yeah, people who work with their hands don't want free handouts. They want a strong and functioning economy where they could benefit directly from their labor. These are false prophets. They're false spokespeople. They're over-credentialed, self-righteous, college elitist kids.
Exactly. Those pampered, coddled, and never taught anything truly grit from their parents of how to live in the real world like blue-collar people is precisely the reason why they are not fit to be anywhere near a leadership position or prosperous situation. And that leads me to my final thought. Liberal Hivemind is exactly spot on with the analysis of this issue. Thank goodness for rational minds such as his to call out these waste of flesh liberals like the scum they are. And folks, it's been a very critical review today. I believe I've learned a lot, and that's what it means to understand things in my view of the political realm. So I hope you enjoyed this YouTuber Spotlight review, and I'll see you in the next one. By the way, like, subscribe, and share.